make sure to watch the previous parts. Transformers Dark of the Moon is one of the better sequels, but it's still not fantastic. So following on in my series, let's rewrite Transformers Dark of the Moon. First off, given how I changed the plot, we have to change the subtitle to something like Terror from the Deep or something. Much like the last two films, the film opens with a monologue by Optimus, explaining that many prominent Decepticons haven't been seen in a while and they don't know why, and many Decepticon attacks have been on energy plants. And since the last film, Ratchet, Chip, and Wheeljack have been working on integrating Cybertronian technology into modern Earth technology and setting up energon scanners all around the place to report on Decepticon activity. No opening montage as we jump straight into the action, where the Cobra Supreme President car is driving and he's getting chased by the Transformers. Bumblebee's leading the strike force, and unlike the last film, they just plow through the checkpoint. Sideswipe shows off his upgrades, and yes, he's using Dino's design, and then we can maybe add a decal saying Sunbro to him, referencing Sunstreaker, who died in the last film, as well as Sunbow, the guys behind G1. Either way, they stop the limousine, and Linux forces out the Supreme President. Abdul Fakati says this is high international treason, and says he has no idea why they did this. And then in the trunk of the presidential limousine, they pull out a Cybertronian battery and some weapons. And Fakati claims innocence and has no idea why those are there. Those were just planted by the US government to frame me, and I need your protection from the Decepticons. They're taking all my country's energy resources. I'll grant the US at least 2% of my oil reserves if you guarantee my safety. As soon as he finishes, they get jumped by Decepticons, including Laserbeak and a bunch of familiar faces. And in this opening action scene, we see how much Bumblebee has improved since last time. He's able to keep all of his people safe. Optimus ground bridges in, runs over a couple of Viacons. His tractor trailer becomes a weapon stash for everyone, including the Nest agents. There's some fighting, but then Breakdown grabs the Cybertronian battery as a new ground bridge opens, revealing Shockwave, played by the awesome David Warner, who apparently was his original inspiration. Optimus notices him as Shockwave tells everyone to fall back, but then for some reason, Soundwave just kind of stands there, giving everyone enough time to attack him and capture him. As we see Abdul Fakati get killed by Laserbeak, who in this time doesn't speak, he just makes bird noises as he transforms and flies off. Back at the Witwicky house, Spike sees off his parents as they go to see the world. Spike's feeling a little down, as we do get our opening montage, set to Linkin Park's Until It's Gone. Life used to be simple, then the Transformers happened. He got the Medal of Honor from the president, the one who served after all that stuff about Project Zeus. That was the happiest moment of his life, getting a medal for saving Optimus' life. But since then, it seems like everyone else is doing better than him. Chip's working full-time, integrating Cybertronian tech, as Carly now works for Ness as Dr. Mirren's assistant. Meanwhile, Spike's haven't had the best of luck with jobs, and he keeps getting fired for dumb reasons, and not hired for dumber reasons, until eventually he finally gets a job with Nest. Hired by Dr. Henry Arkaville, Chip's boss, who's currently working on using Cybertronian tech to improve prosthetics, including his bionic arm. But Spike, despite seeing someone get fired for dumb reasons, is getting put as the mailboy. Meanwhile, the Autobots return to base, and Optimus tells Mirren who Shockwave is. Long ago, Shockwave used to be Megatron's second in command and lead scientist, and even longer before that, he used to be a scientist and senator on Cybertron, until he was expelled by the Council for support about Megatron's ideals. Eventually, he became one of the most brutal war criminals of the Decepticons, designing the Viacons and participating in many atrocities. This is the first time Shockwave has been seen since Megatron departed Cybertron. Later, Mirren meets with Megatron, who's still armless and disheveled from the last film. And Mirren says he has to cooperate. His trial with the International Court is coming up. Megatron's all depressed and says he deserves whatever verdict they give him. Meanwhile, the Autobots and Nest agents are training, and then they get alerted a hail from a new ship commanded by Ultra Magnus of all bots. Optimus is stunned to see Magnus still around, and that his message has made it all the way back to Cybertron. Magnus, with the awesome and cool voice of Lance Hendrickson, introduces the crew to everyone. The Elite Guard enter base Metroplex, and Magnus explains Optimus's message from the last two films made it all the way to Cybertron, which were the things that really raised morale around the Autobots and were able to seize factories so they can produce more Autotroopers and eventually reclaim Cybertron. Optimus welcomes them to their new home. Meanwhile, the Decepticons, Starscream's yelling about how sloppy their last mission was and they just lost their biggest energy producer, but Shockwave says it was all according to their plan. Starscream questions what plan as he gets up in Shockwave's face, pushing Dragstrip and Breakdown away. Shockwave, who's 3 times bigger than Starscream, explains that you shouldn't worry about anything because it's all already in motion. Breakdown crashes into a cage and he gets scared by the things inside and questions what they are. And Shockwave says they're the remnants of the Autobots who shot down the Nemesis 1. Then we cut to Laserbeak flying around. Then it cuts to Soundwave's face as he's locked up in base Metroplex right next to Megatron. Meanwhile, the humans, Carly checks up on Spike. Carly knows Spike's hiding his feelings, and Spike laments that he feels that his life has become normal. He has a Medal of Honor for saving the leader of a bunch of giant robots. His life shouldn't be normal. He wants a crazy adventure again. Everyone else is having a cool life but him. And then they get alerted by Dr. Arkeville to go down to the lab, and they see Chip now has bionic legs and make him walk again. Everyone's happy for him and celebrates, but now Spike's still a little more upset that he doesn't have anything special like bionic legs in his life. Then in the bathroom, he gets jumped by your resident Ken Jeong. Senior Chan explains that he should shut up. He would love to have a life like Spike. He actually got to talk to the giant robots. And also, don't you think it's a little strange that this new guy, Ultra Magnus, just so happens to have heard from millions of light years away Optimus's message in only 6 years? There's a conspiracy among us, man. I wouldn't trust him. I would get out here as soon as possible. Nothing to see here. As the Autobots get alerted that Decepticons are attacking a solar plant, Bumblebee, RC, Sideswipe, and Ironhide of the original crew are going, as well as the Wreckers. And Magnus suggests that Cub, Warpath, and Springer go along. The ground bridge in, and we learn about the new Elite Guard. Cub's the old wise one. Warpath is a self-centered gun nut played by Jesse Ventura. And Springer is the young soldier, almost kind of like a Bumblebee mixed with Ironhide type. Bumblebee leads the mission. He says that he doesn't see any Decepticons. Sideswipe jokes that they're all hiding because they're scared of Warpath. And Warpath says they're smart to be scared of him. The Wreckers, RC, and Warpath stay behind as the rest scout out the area. And they get a little too close to some cars, and they transform. And oh wow, action scene. Taking some footage from the island for some reason. All the Viacons attack. The Wreckers back at the solar plant show that they're actually competent when they're needed, and not just loudmouth rednecks. Warpath takes note. Sideswipe drives one of them. Ironhide crashes into 2. They have a Mexican standoff with Ironhide and Springer, and 2 Viacons, and they manage to take the Cybertronian battery. Back at the base, Magnus is actually impressed about Optimus's team. But Optimus questions why there are only Viacons attacking without any Sparkcons, which Magnus says to bring the team back, and they'll have the aerial bots and whoever can fly on Optimus's team go scout out the area to make sure they're all gone, which Optimus agrees to. Then when everyone gets back, they start celebrating and partying with the humans, and even Spike starts to smile a bit. Springer tells Warpath to cheer up, and Warpath just silently walks away. As Magnus takes Ironhide away for a second, and we see Laserbeak actually make it to base Metroplex. He transforms and sneaks into the facility, stealthing around, stealth killing a couple humans, till he gets to the mainframe of the system, cutting back to Soundwave's face. And yet again, all the Decepticons are stuck in like futuristic laser cells. As it's finally time for the International Court to oversee their war crime trial. As they're getting like zoomed on big TV screens in front of the Decepticons. And Cup goes up to Optimus and says that he can't let the others do this to his team.
I'm sorry, Dawn. But you're gonna have to run again.
Magnus tells Ironhide that it wasn't entirely truthful that he got Optimus's message, and how Magnus long ago was just a simple soldier that Orion randomly appointed to be his replacement as he fled into the stars cowardly. He did his best for many decades, but eventually he just got tired of seeing all of his friends be deactivated. Trailbreaker, Windcharger, Hubcap, Rescue, Crosswise, Breacher, and eventually I just couldn't handle it anymore.
For the sake of our planet's survival, a deal had to be made.
Magnus marched into Kaon unarmed and met with the Decepticon regent, Ratbat, appointed by Starscream.
As the military commander of the Autobots, I, Ultra Magnus, in good faith, hereby surrender to you.
The International Court finds Soundwave guilty of all charges and asks about his closing remarks, which he simply says,
Soundwave superior, Autobots inferior.
Now all the systems start messing up and his cage opens due to Laserbeak. He flies in and perches on Soundwave as he causes a massive sonic blast, knocking out the systems in the room, opening up every Decepticon's cage. But emergency power activates and an alarm goes off. Mirren sees the power going all weird and sees Magnus decommission Ironhide and runs out to question him.
What do you think you're doing?
I am a prime. I do not take orders from you.
Magnus attacks the humans as he goes to the ground bridge. We see a mysterious hand typing away at a laptop. Optimus, listening to Cup, runs into everything as the shielding around the base starts to deplete, as tons of ground bridges open up and Viacon army just floods through and attacks the base. Warpath and Flak realizes it's go time and starts shooting at the ceiling. As Ultra Magnus and Crosshair open up the ground bridge and free all the Decepticons. The traitorous Elite Guard and Decepticons run through the ground bridge, except Megatron, who looks at the remembrance flowers dedicated to the people who are lost because of him, until he gets grabbed by Warpath and forced through the ground bridge. All the humans are freaking out, and Bumblebee jumps on top of the main characters before the ceiling collapses on them. Optimus chases Magnus.
Autobots, retreat!
We see the mysterious hand typing on the laptop as the power to everything except for the ground bridge starts to fail, as it's revealed to be Archiville's hand, and he was sending all the power to the base to the Decepticons, as he enters into the bunker with Mirren.
Thrusters online.
Magnus and Optimus get into a big fight as the base starts collapsing around them, and Magnus states,
You're no Tron. You're not.
he abandoned his post and he abandoned his people when he needed him most. He is no Prime. Optimus states he had to do what he needed to. And Magnus says, don't justify our people's extinction, Orion. Then he hits Orion Pax in the head with his big old hammer, and the last thing Optimus sees is Magnus walking through the ground bridge as it shuts off and the ceiling collapses on him. With the Decepticon, Shockwave welcomes Megatron back and asks for a knockout to repair him.
Welcome back to the winning team.
Megatron is like, whatever. We cut to Starscream laughing, King of the Worlding on the Atlantis, and we zoom out showing that he looks like the toy next to the Atlantis, how big it is.